What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today we got an extra special guest. His name is ELLIOTT HULSE. If you haven't heard of him, go and check out his YouTube channel. He has made so many videos that has changed so many people's lives, particularly young men of my generation and older. ELLIOTT's advice is very instrumental for why I'm doing what I'm doing today, and couldn't have done any of this without him, so big shout out to him. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Let me know what you think in the comment section, and I'll see you all next time. Peace. Welcome to the Spoon of Consciousness podcast. My guest today is the one and only ELLIOTT HULSE. ELLIOTT, man, you've really helped so many of us change our lives. Young men, I've met so many of them, and they've all said how much of an impact you've had on their lives, and that's me included, man. How did all of this get started for you, like the putting out videos and things like that?
Well, if you're asking me when I first started making videos, it was when I first started my business, Strength Camp, training clients in the park out of the back of my van. I mean, I was $90,000 in debt and trying to start a business and raise a family at the same time. And I didn't have an advertising budget, but at the same time, 2007, which is exactly 10 years ago, I started Strength Camp. It was the same time that YouTube started. So I began recording the workouts and getting testimonials from my clients, mainly so that they could share it with their friends and then bring their friends to Strength Camp so that they could work out. Little did I know that millions of people worldwide would be watching it, and it became very popular.
Man, that's an understatement. It's so popular, yeah, that's true, but it's so impactful, and I think it's because you're giving that realness. Like, there's no apologies, like, oh, it's gonna be okay, don't worry about it. You give us that reality check, which is what I found so useful. There was nowhere for me to hide once I'd heard the video. I was like, shit, I need to start making some changes. Did you ever feel like on your journey, like, when you were starting the entrepreneurial venture, did you come into a lot of resistance and a lot of challenges along the way?
Well, I mean, anytime you do something that's outside the norm, there's going to be resistance and challenges, but that's why we do it, right? So I go to the gym. Today we did 5 sets of 5 with squats, and there was resistance and it was challenging, but I still did it for one reason and one reason only, because it's going to make me stronger. So if we go to the gym in order to challenge ourselves with resistance and grow stronger, it works the exact same way in life. If you stay lazy, you don't challenge yourself, you try to avoid challenges and resistance, well, then you're going to stay weak, just like you do in the gym.
Yeah, that's so true. And the whole concept of working out and improving your other areas of your life, I was fucking up so much in my early days, because I just, you made a video about playing video games and you did this, and my posture was all fucked up. When I went in to start training, I was like this, and it was really weird. Like, you made that video and I started checking myself, like, yo, no more. So I mentioned before we started recording, this concept of forgiveness has been coming up for me lately. Mainly, like, I would like to get your perspective on when people do bad things to each other or us, what's the best way of learning to forgive them, or actually like going through the process of forgiving instead of wanting to get revenge on them and stuff like that?
Same perspective, brother. When we meet challenges and resistance in our life through our mirrors, our relationships are our mirrors. When we face challenges in our relationships, be grateful for them, because they're an opportunity to grow stronger. In fact, they are definitely the most potent way to challenge yourself with resistance and grow stronger. Was it Aristotle said that no virtue is developed in a vacuum, which basically means, oh, you want to be a virtuous person? Well, then go out there in the world and face people who are going to challenge you. As far as forgiveness is concerned, well, with that perspective, the first forgiveness would be to self for there's so many reasons why we could forgive ourselves, but when we find ourselves in circumstances with other people who have triggered us, people who have upset us, people who have caused us to lose ourselves and fall into the depths of despair and depression and anxiety and sickness and sadness, when we wake up, we can we can forgive ourselves for letting ourselves get carried away in that ridiculous manner. That other person is there to show us where we could grow stronger. And if we take that as an opportunity to get punched in the face and fall down, we're going to have to forgive ourselves for staying down there too long, because most people stay down there too long. It's not about the other person. It's never about the other person. Ever. It's always about us.
Yeah, definitely, man. And that's such great advice, because we can tend to project, oh, it's their fault, I'm in this situation, and then we're giving up our power. But what do you think it is that is making us so disempowered in the first place? Like, you know, you give a lot of inspiration and motivation to young men, which is great. I was not taking anything away from that. But what do you think led us to that place of needing it in the first place?
It's the human journey. We come here to lose ourselves so that we can find ourselves. If we came here, we knew everything, we had no challenges, and we were brilliant and enlightened as soon as we got here, it would be like going to a gym, showing up, and you've got all the muscles already. Boring. Why would you want to do that? We come here specifically so that we can forget our power and then go on the journey of recovering it. So all that we lament about and are upset about is exactly the gift.
So with that being said, like, with the awakening journey and finding out about these philosophies that can help us, do you think that there's anything we can do to help others reclaim their power, or is it just solely a solo journey?
Man, when you light a candle, it can't help but light up the room. You can't help it. You become the strongest version of yourself. You cannot help but light up the room. You don't have to do anything. You just be, just like that candle. It just be, just in its essence, wakes the room up. Yeah,
like the reason I ask is because there's so many people who we can come into contact with. We're like, wow, if you only knew about this, or if you just read this book, then your life would be a lot better. But I definitely agree with you that we can be those candles. Along those same lines, like, if for the young people or pretty much everyone who's watching, do you have any philosophies that you recommend we look into?
Well, how do you mean?
So you quoted some Nietzsche and you've quoted some other philosophers in your videos, Aristotle just now. It's every time I've come across your videos, can't even get my words out. I always get the feeling that you're very well read, you're very learned. It was actually because of you I picked up Thus Spoke Zarathustra, and I couldn't even read the damn book. It took me like 5 to 10 minutes to read the first chunk of writing, and it was really frustrating. But do you have any other what are your favorite philosophy books that you would recommend for others?
I love Eastern philosophy. When I first started listening to Alan Watts and discovered the mysteries of the East, Hinduism, Taoism, Buddhism, I fell in love. And then when I found Ralph Waldo Emerson, who was an American in the 1820s, 1830s, who was highly influenced by Rumi and Hafez and Hinduism and the philosophies of the East, and he brought it to America and used his platform and his essays and his poetry to share those gifts. He really started an entire movement called Transcendentalism that I subscribe to and I love, and really shaped America. So they say that the sun rises in the East and it shines most splendidly as it sets in the West. So to me, I'm looking to the East to find the things that are going to wake up the West.
No, yeah, I like the analogy. Elliot, this is a really weird question for me to ask, but a lot of young men, and me included, we look up to you as, you know, you're in the gym, you're doing your thing, you're an entrepreneur. A lot of people have said, oh, look up to Elliot because he's a real man. And I would really like to get your perspective on what it means to be a man in this day and age.
Well, if you're looking for me to be the real man, I'm half woman. So you're going to be in trouble. Yeah, one of my teachers told me when I was going through a pretty dark time, he said, Elliot, if you ever want to become fully man, you must become a woman first. And that lends to the basic philosophy of all that exists on earth, and that is the polarity encapsulated within the yin-yang. There's no yang without the yin. There's no sun without the moon. There's no up without the down. There's no masculine without the feminine. And it is in every single cell of our body, not only us as an organism made up of systems of organs with organelles, even deep within the atomical structure of the universe, there are negative and positive charges. The idea that we are just a man, I'm all man, is completely asinine. And that's what keeps us trapped, because we're only actually half. When we begin to sink into the receptive mode of that's available through our hearts, which gives us the gift of intuition and feeling and sensuality, we then start becoming integrated. And that's what we want. We want to become integrated, whole, full. Carl Jung described how every man has an anima and every woman has an animus. Inside every man there's a woman, inside every woman there's a man.
So the implication being that we need to, in order to reach this manliness, we need to reconnect with the feminine that we're being suppressing within.
Absolutely, and we see it in the animal kingdom. If you watch the apes, I was watching not too long ago, the king alpha ape, you know why he's the alpha ape? Because the women say so. He can't stand up there as the patriarch if he doesn't have the backing of all the women, all the females. There's a lot to that, because the women recognize, he's not just mighty and strong, he is, but he can also be tender enough to care for us and care for the young.
That, you know, it sounds great in theory, but there's so much out here that's influencing us. And I mean, I'm speaking from personal experience here. I was told you gotta be big, like in stature. You've gotta be fighting a lot of men. You've gotta be womanizing. You gotta sleep with a lot of women to externally show that you are this kind of man. And that really fucked me up for a lot of years. Like, I was trying to, I can drink more than you, or I can eat more than you, and it felt like a ridiculous competition that you can never win, because there's always another level. Or he's bigger than me, he's getting more pussy than me, and this crap just on repeat. Like, what do you think is a good way for us to, like, get away from that?
I don't say get away from it. I say do it. Do it hard. Do the drinking games. Go drive your car fast. Go and womanize. Go do all those things so that when you're done, just like a pendulum, you go this way so that you can accept and receive and be available for this way. Me, I went as hard as I can. Captain of the football team, professional strongman. I didn't do too many drinking games because I'm a lightweight. I get hammered and fall asleep. But you see what I'm saying? I tore up my body because of that. Tore both biceps, tore my Achilles tendon. I'm a man's man. And when I allowed myself to be that, it showed me just how far the pendulum swung, and I had no choice to come back into what is healing, what would allow me to be balanced. And I tell you what, I didn't have to make a choice about that. God forced me to do that with my injuries. So I went 100%, but here's the thing. You have to be able to listen enough to know when it's time to put that shit down. I'm not against any of that. I'm against sticking with that when it's time to go somewhere else. And that's our problem with everything. We become very accustomed to a version of ourselves, and we think that's the way we need to be all the time. But what we end up with is a bunch of 40-year-old men who still think and act like they're 14. That's ugly.
Yeah, that's damn right, man. I know some 60-year-olds who act like 6-year-olds, and not in a good way. Like, you know, still trying to present that exterior like everything's cool, everything's fine. But the beer belly and the diabetes and the cancer, it don't lie. Like, you can't cover that shit up. There's no band-aid for it. And that really reminds me of what we're speaking about here. But when we speak about the pendulum swing and we're going into the healing aspect of it, we're looking out for some signs, right? It's time to put these things down. what kind, like for you it was an injury, for me it was very similar. What kind of signs would we be looking out for?
You either get kicked off the cliff or you jump, and it's one or the other. We're gonna get there either way. So getting kicked off the cliff is a tragedy. When we get sick, right? The diabetes, you say. When somebody gets diabetes, whenever there's a disease, it's basically God kicking you off the cliff and saying, hey, wake the fuck up. Most people, they just take pills or whatever and try to forget about it. But the fact is, it's a sign that it's time to take up a new banner. We can either wait till we get kicked. I get kicked all the time. I wait till I get kicked. I don't learn my lesson till I get kicked, right? Or we could jump off the cliff. I like to jump also too. Jumping off the cliff means taking a risk in your life. And when you take a risk in your life, you have no choice but to rely on faith. Faith. You have, because they say all the sweetest fruit is out on a limb. Climbing that tree and going out on that limb means that limb could crash. But you have to go out there to get that sweetest fruit. And the only way to sustain the courage available to you to walk out there is to have faith that it's going to work out, that it's going to be okay.
That's the difficult part though, isn't it? Like regardless of...
The man is the head of the family, right? We're all head. We want to calculate and strategize and have a backup plan and no guarantees. Well, that's bullshit. The heart is where faith comes in. Faith is knowing without knowing without facts. That is a very feminine, receiving, passive, yielding quality that is essential for full development.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because a lot of men are resistant to feeling, if we want to call it that. Like, oh, I don't love her. I pass the bitches and I don't cuff them. Like that whole like thing about not wanting to feel an attachment to someone and have a real relationship is very similar. And that, I think, is fucking up a lot of the youth. You know, we see the rappers out here flexing the chains and I got all of these girls around me, and I'm not gonna lie, I wanted that shit too. And when I had it, it was like ego stroke everywhere. Oh, you like the clothes I'm wearing, you like the alcohol we're holding, and oh, we're taking pictures together and shit. That's very validating and it's really fucking difficult to get away from. I just wanted to get your like perspective on, you know, like having people to look up to, positive role models and stuff like that. What would you suggest for young people who are coming up in the game, wanting to leave behind their old lifestyles? Who would you suggest they look to embody?
Let them come to you. They say when the student is ready, the master appears. Oftentimes, the master is living right in your home. Because we're always looking outside, we're wanting to, consume. How about maybe your grandfather? Sit with him for a moment. You might find something. You might receive some great wisdom. Maybe, maybe not. But what I'm saying is that masters are all around. And if you just open your eyes, sometimes they're right under our nose. We don't have to go to great lengths to find wonderful men to emulate and support us with their wisdom. School teachers, parents, grandparents, uncles, neighbors. And the minute you feel that vibe from someone, you know that this is a master, or it's my master at the moment. Because masters come and go, and there are different levels of master. Maybe you need a master for this level, but then there's a new master.
Yeah,
Always looking.
I think that's very true, because for every, I think it was Tyrese who always says, for every level there's another devil, and you need to find new masters all the time, and that's great advice. I'm glad you brought up the education system, Elliot, because this is one of my big issues with society, right? You're saying we can be the candle, and that's cool, but how do we go about revamping such an archaic system that's fucking us up from such a young age?
How do you revamp it, you're asking me? I'm not a reformist. I don't believe in reforming shit that's broke. You say, when something's broke, you get rid of it. It keeps breaking. And we're watching all the systems, all the institutions in our life crumble right before our eyes. I just say, watch it as it goes away. Our children, our grandchildren, things will be different for them, not because we take up any arms or there's a crusade or because we're fighting. They say that which you resist persists. None of that is necessary. Just look, you can see it's all falling apart. They say the walls are down. The curtain has been lifted. Just by mere virtue of us having this conversation, challenging the institution is fact that its unfoldment is on the way. They say that a pen is mightier than the sword. The idea is out there.
So is it a question of us having more conversations around it, or do we simply just start creating a new system straight away and watch the old one die out?
We do what we know is best for ourselves. You know what I'm saying? Because once again, so you have a crusade, and we all have different crusades. Let's say that's your crusade. Education is a crusade. We all have different crusades, and everybody's crusade is right. But it is your very crusade, by taking up the sword for that and living in that particular way, that you light a candle and you begin to enlighten the people around you. I was on a crusade for health and fitness. The people in my life, they're all into health and fitness. They can't help it because I'm here and I'm eating this and I'm drinking this and I'm exercising. My whole family, everybody exercises. Not because I made them. My wife, I never made her exercise, never asked her to exercise. We've been dating since we were 14 years old. And never once do I try to make her exercise. Once she finished having we have 4 children, and when the children were done, she said, Elliot, I want to start exercising. Great.
Elliot, I'm glad you brought up the relationship thing, because your story is one that many people hope to have, shall we say. Like, oh, I fell in love with my high school sweetheart and we got married and we had children and stuff. The only question I have for you is, like, how did you know? Like, how did you just know it, that she was the one?
I didn't. I didn't know. She became the one. You know, they say successful people don't make the right decisions. They make their decisions right. I don't want to say I made the wrong decision. That's not the case. But I made a decision, and I made the decision right, meaning, well, this is clearly my woman. So let's roll. Let's do the best that we can. Let's do this thing. As opposed to, you know, we live in a day and age also where we're constantly upgrading. You know, there's constant upgrades. Right now I'm having a problem with my computer because I need to upgrade shit. Well, you know, maybe there are parts of our lives that we can adjust, where we're meant to upgrade to. Instead of upgrading your relationship, like I said earlier, maybe it's time for me to upgrade. Maybe my old ways of being are no longer resourceful for the dream that I have for this relationship. You got to ask yourself that. Where do I need to upgrade myself?
So when it comes to, like, using the law of attraction and stuff like that to get a relationship and stuff, a lot of people have come into contact with narcissists or people that are just, I'm sure you have heard stories, psycho ex-girlfriends and shit like that. Do you think there's any way for us to avoid that happening? Or is it just a question of us working on ourselves and identifying?
Absolutely. Man, it's always, you can always see from the outside. And that's why it's tough for us to judge. But I got friends, and I see them with a woman that's just like the last woman that they couldn't get along with. And I'm like, I know what's going to happen. I can tell you exactly what's going to happen. In 6 months, you're going to get bored because she turned this way and did this and such and such. I could just look at the woman and tell you. But you got to go through, you have to have your own pain. You got to go through your own struggles. And maybe after 3, 4, 5 times with this woman, you like women with big boobs, right? Big boobs and no brain. You got another bitch with big boobs and no brain, and you're still having problems. Maybe next time you get the small titty girl. Maybe your problems will end.
Shit, that's a very, you know what, I have to admit, for me, not exactly in the same physical aspect, but I was looking for a certain type of thing, and if I didn't realize, my friend kept telling me, she was like, wake up man, wake up, you're doing the same thing. I was like, yeah, whatever, and it just completely crumbled down, and I was like, fuck, I need to change my whole way of looking at this thing. And that's a very difficult thing to do. Again, we're looking at like TV and I don't watch TV anymore because it's telling me this is what's attractive, this is what will make you successful, this is what your friends are gonna say, yeah, well done, man, pat you on the back, that's cool. What do you like? How would you even know if what your taste is and what would be attractive and stuff? I remember you made a video where this girl said she was known as the ugly girl, and you were saying that it's the beauty that comes from within. It's a very cliche thing, but how in this world that we're living in, what's a good way for us to like start recognizing that beauty within?
You got to think with your two heads. First of all, your dick's got to get hard. If you're not attracted, if you're not having good sex, if you're not enjoying her physically, it's not going to last. You can't deny the physical. And then you think with this head. Be logical, be rational. Think about what you're doing. Add up the pieces and see, does it make sense? In other words, does this person make sense for me? As a man, we have our mission. That's number one, our path. You have to look at your woman and ask, is she going to be a good teammate on my path? Or is she going to cause resistance on my path? And you know right away, it doesn't matter how much you're in love. This woman is an alcoholic. You know what I mean? Or she cheats on you, or she's whatever the case may be. And then for me, I don't have time for headaches. I don't have time for headaches. I don't have time for problems. I just don't. So if I'm starting to have some problem with this woman, right away my head says, okay, get the hell out of here. I want to be able to logically see why this makes sense and physically feel why this makes sense.
Yeah, man, no, I totally agree. But a lot of people demonize it. Oh, it's not all about looks, but it's a big part of it. If you don't like her and you're into fitness and she's into eating Doritos and smoking a lot of weed and chilling on the couch and just obesity and all this stuff, it's not gonna go well together. So I definitely agree with that.
Dudes like that. Yeah, chubby chasers, man. Hey, if you like that kind of girl, I make no judgments, man. Maybe that's exactly what you want. More cushion for the pushing. But as long as it's working for you.
That's true. But on those same lines, Elliot, you mentioned before about eating right and what you're drinking and stuff like that. Do you have a specific diet that you follow, or any advice that you can give for us who are looking to improve our health with food?
Well, the very first piece is to know thyself. And when you know yourself, you don't make decisions that make you feel bad. So I've always realized that I feel best when I eat a diet that's closer to more fat and protein and less carbohydrates. Now, I'm not telling everybody to do that. I would be wrong if I go and tell everybody go eat keto, right? Go eat paleo. Those work for me because I know myself. And if I go outside the bounds of that, I start gaining weight, I start getting tired, I just don't feel my best. That's me. And the only way I can make that decision is by being true to myself. A lot of times people have these diets. People treat diet like religion, meaning like, I believe in it so much that even if it's making me sick, I'm going to do it. And so they eat in this way. For example, if my wife ate the way I ate, she might not feel right. She might end up having problems if she ate that way. But because she pays attention, she realizes, oh, I need to eat a little bit more this way. I need to have a little bit more carbohydrates when I have my meals. And that's okay. That's right. That's perfect. It's about knowing thyself.
Yeah, I'm glad you put it that way, because a lot of people look up to you or other people as well, and they say, okay, this person's following that diet, I'm going to do it, and it doesn't matter if I'm getting fucked up results because Elliot said it's fine and I'm going to keep doing it. I'm glad you cleared that one up. There's another thing that I'm really curious about, man. A few years ago you said the message is done, and that was like a long break from the YouTube stuff. How did you come to that point? Like, how did you come to that conclusion?
I listen to my soul, brother. I listen to my heart rather than my head. All logic aside, I mean, to make a decision like that is against logic. But if we continue to follow logic, logic would say that the way we're treating the earth and technology is going to save us. A lot of the choices we're making are very logical, but they go against our intuition. Our intuition, so for example, in my city right now, this is crazy, this is nuts. In my city right now, we have what's called reclaimed water. So this is water that has been polluted, you know, sewage, but then it's clean. They put it through a process and they chlorinate it and whatnot. But the water is still not great water. It smells and so on and so forth because it's still a bit contaminated and it has the chemicals in it. So for a while we were trying to use it for water lawns and stuff. Some people do it, but then they complain about it smells and so on and so forth. So we ended up with a problem because the process by which that is all done, the machinery broke down and the city doesn't have the funds to pay to fix it. So all logic considered, we can't fix this. We have this problem. What do? Our scientists, our geniuses decided we're going to drill a hole down into the aquifer, the clean water that's been there for thousands of years, and we're going to dump it all into there. Because that's somehow, they figured out that that's a better way to do it. As soon as I hear that, I don't have to be a scientist. You're putting polluted water into clean water that's been clean for thousands of years. Something feels weird about that. Something feels wrong about that. I'm not the geniuses that our politicians are, and I'm not the genius that our scientists are to make that decision, but something inside me feels not right about that. And that's where I'm at with it.
So is it more of a question of like paying attention to how it feels over time while you're doing it and stopping when it doesn't give you the same feeling that it did when it was feeling right?
It's a matter of intuition and gut. You know, and logic can't answer every single question. Sometimes we have to be quiet enough to hear the whisper of God. And so when I was on top making all my videos and whatnot, and, you know, money is great and I'm rising in popularity, the most logical thing to do would be to continue. But now I know in retrospect, and then I had an idea that it was the wrong path for me. That wasn't where I was going was for the world, the right path. Skyrocketing up. It makes perfect sense, completely logical. But in my soul, in my heart, there was something like with the water tapping on me in my back and saying, something's not right. And so I chose to go with that. Stupid. Completely illogical. I decided, well, I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna see why, what my heart is telling me, what's going on here inside me. And it's taken me a few years of self-discovery, self-love, and finding myself again to realize where I was out of alignment so that now I can continue on my journey even stronger than where I was before. I know that was your original question. I went on a rant about the water.
No, I'm glad you did it. Definitely makes sense for the analogy. I would really like to know, Elliott, like you've done so much already. How do you decide what to do next or where to go next?
Again, bro, the path just unfolds in front of me. In Buddhism, they call it right action. Right action means being available enough, aware enough to know that you're going to make the right decision in the moment when it arises. One of my biggest problems, one of the things that have made me more crazy and sick and anxious than ever is trying to plan the future. I laugh at myself today because what I'm doing today, right now, I have two young men here that are working with me to help develop a vlog. So I'm going to be doing daily vlogs on my YouTube channel again. I had this idea, this seed, back in April. And I was pulling my hair out trying to plan how I'm going to do it and what each episode's going to be about. And man, I spent hours racking my brain only to find out that I wasted my time. And I knew myself well enough that I was like, all right, I'll just leave it alone. I'm going to leave it alone because I know it's unfolding. When something rises in our body, when something we intuit is on its way, anything that you're wanting is wanting you just as much. We can relax in its unfolding and allow it to come to us. But I'm a forcer. I like to grab. I want to go do it. So I waste a whole lot of energy only to 6 months later, it all just happened perfectly. almost seamlessly, easy like.
But Elliot, man, look, I'm very similar in terms of I want things to go nice, neatly, and smooth. But obviously, you know, shit happens, there's roadblocks and whatever. When do we know when the right time is to force something, or just let it go and it will come to me?
That is your intelligence in the moment. You have to know right there in the moment. And you got to trust yourself in the moment too. You know, because a lot of times we have our first reaction, and I like to say, you know, when I was a kid, they say first word is the right word. You know, what you said, but then you went back and you changed what you said. We always listen to the first one, first word, because first word, they call it a Freudian slip. They call it it's a Freudian slip. How am I thinking in terms of Hermes, a hermetic slip? These are things that come up from the unconscious. And even though they may make absolutely no sense in the moment, they're coming from your truth. The minute we judge it or evaluate it or try to ask somebody else, this is our biggest mistake, ask somebody else what they think about it, now we're thrown completely off base. You got to trust that first instinct. I told a story the other day about having dinner at one of my favorite restaurants, and my favorite server was there, and it was his 50th birthday. And he came over and said, "Hey, Elliot, I turned the big 5-0 today." Instantly in my mind, I said, "Give this man $100 tip." That's a big ass tip. But it just came to me as a $100 tip. As soon as that came, no more than 2 seconds later, well, maybe $50. Logic came in. And I said, nope. First word. I wrote the man a $100 tip. You see what I'm saying? That happens all the time to all of us.
Yeah, I definitely agree. We're asking people for asking anyone for their advice on your situation just fucks me up even more. Like, oh, what do you think I should do about this girl problem I've got? And you got 10 different opinions, and they all like different things. And one of them's like, yeah, go for it. One of them's like, no, never again. Whatever. It's just adding to the problem. But again, like this whole thing about forcing things and wanting to attract it and things like that. When it comes to something like growing a business, when it comes to the entrepreneurial venture, we watch people like Gary Vee, and he's always talking about the hustle, the hustle, the hustle. Does that ever not have, I don't even know how to even say it. You know, like how we're speaking about going with the first word and going with the intelligence in the moment. If that is suggesting, you know, relax, leave it alone for a bit, but then you got people who are like, no, to build a big business, to build something, you need to hustle. Like, is there a balance between the two that we need to recognize there?
Yeah, you're two different people. That works for Gary Vee, right? Just like climbing a tree works for a monkey, but you can't tell a horse to do the same thing. Come on, come climb trees. It's high up here. It's better up here. You can get fruit up here. He's a fucking horse. He's supposed to be on the ground. And not only that, he's supposed to be exercising his way. He can run and gallop faster than a monkey can run. That's the whole idea behind paying attention to ourselves rather than listening to the advice of someone else. Other people will show us what's available. Other people may even show us what's inside us that we didn't know was there. But the minute we take our attention off of ourselves and we hold that other person as the savior, and I need to do what he does because he's got that, that's when we lose ourselves and we end up miserable. A lot of people end up being very successful, doing successful things, and they're miserable.
You know what? That's great advice, because there's so many young people looking up to big YouTubers, successful businessmen. They're copying their habits. They're working round the clock, but they're pissed off. Oh, I'm going to work all this time and I'm not going to go to the cinema, or I'm not going to have a girlfriend and stuff. And you ask them, how's it going? Yeah, I'm pissed off, but I'm doing my work, and that's it. And I think it's a matter of working it out what works for you. On that note, Elliot, thank you so much for all the advice and everything you've been giving us over the years. I'd just like to know, out of interest, what's next for you? Like, what's in the future that you see?
Well, right now we're developing Strength Camp into a franchise model. So Strength Camp has done wonderful things in the city. We have an international following, and now we've got gyms in multiple states in the US and the UK. So we're developing our systems, our program, and our marketing so that we can bring strength and fitness, but more importantly, becoming the strongest version of yourself to everybody in the world.
Wow, that's really cool. I can't wait to check out some of the gyms in the UK. I had no idea you had them here.
Yeah, Chester. We have one in Chester, and where's the other one? Can't remember.
Okay, I'll look it up anyway. Elliot, the last question I have for you is something that I've been really interested in myself. Is there one piece of advice or information that's like helped you throughout your whole journey that you think people need to know?
Man, I mean, it changes all the time, and it's always different based on who I am. But what's been consistent is the unlayering of all that no longer or never did belong to me, and stripping down to the core of our truth. And that is a lifelong journey. But the minute we wake up to the fact that that's the journey that we're on, life becomes that much easier. When the challenges come, we know this challenge is here to strip me down. This bad thing happened to show me something about myself. I'm being, whatever it is that's happening in your life, see it as an opportunity to get closer to your core.
Man, that is, I'm so glad you said that, because it's so relevant for where I am right now. And a lot of people I've been speaking with leading up to this podcast, they've been wanting to ask so many questions. I think this has been so powerful. So thank you so much for joining me today, Elliot. It's been really great speaking with you. And it's not every day that we get to speak with our idols or legends. So thank you for everyone who can't be here today to speak with you as well. Thank you on their behalf. And all of Elliott's links will be in the description. Thanks everyone for joining us. And you can catch the podcast every Wednesday and Saturday. And we'll see you next time. Peace.